Hello creative minds, welcome back to my channel. If you're an old subscriber, thank you so much for constantly supporting my channel, and if you're new here, you're welcome, and welcome to the family. And on today's project, I'm going to be sharing with you how I came about this beautiful pants with an X design at the knee part, just as you are seeing here on the screen. So this pants has an elastic waist at the back, and it also has a pocket, and the front is non-elastic. If this looks like what you would like to learn, then please watch this video to the end so as not to miss any part of this tutorial, as I'll be sharing with you how you can go about getting a perfect crotch for your pants and how you can achieve a perfect crotch outcome. Let's get right into the video. So for this tutorial, I'm making use of an African print, just as seen, and here I have my print on fold of 2. So how I got this is I used my crotch depth measurement, and I added extra 2.5 inches. So for instance, if my crotch depth is about 14, I added extra 2.5 inches to get width of 4 to fold. So this pants is going to be having and the 2 inches band at the top. So next is to go ahead and impute my hip measurement. Then I also went ahead to include my crouch length, which is about 12 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and rule a straight line, just like I'm doing here on my hip point, and also my crotch line, like I'm doing here. So the next part now is to go ahead and measure my round hip measurement. So remember I told you that this pant is going to be having an elastic at the back, and it's going to be free at the front. So I'm just going to be using my round hip measurement to achieve that. I added extra ½ inches to my round hip measurement. Then at my crotch line, I went out by 2 inches, just like so, and I connected it with a not too slanted line, just like you see me do here, all the way to that point. So the next point now is to go ahead and measure my knee point. So why I'm doing this is because I want this pant to be as straight as it can be. I don't want it to be too bulky at the down parts. So I'm going to measure my round lap measurement at that point. So for lap measurement, instead of being divided by 4 like every other measurement, lap measurement is usually divided by 2. So at that point there, I went out by ½ inch just to give my pants a little bit of curvy effect at that point, and I curved it down to my hip line like so. So next now is to go ahead and impute the length of this pant. So what I'm going to be doing is, so for instance, if my normal length of this pant is 40 inches, I'm going to be adding extra like 4 inches. Why I'm adding extra 4 inches is 2 inches to fold the hem of my pants, and extra 2 inches because of the design we are going to be having at the knee point. I don't want to end up having any shortage, so I'm just going to impute all the allowances that will be needed, so that if I have excess at the down part, when I'm folding the hemline, I can always take it out. It's better to have excess than for it not to be enough. So I'm going to just go ahead. What I have at my round thigh measurement that I measured is exactly what I'll be imputing at the knee, that's at the hemline of my pants. So for instance, if my round thigh measurement is about 14 inches, the hemline of my pants, I'm going to be imputing about 13.5 inches. So you can decide to do the 14 inches if you want it wide at the down part. And that's basically all for the drafting. I'm going to go ahead and cut out just like I'm doing here. So if you want your pants to have a zipper, then you can go ahead and mark out your waist measurement at the top of your pants. But like I said, this pant is going to be having an elastic at the back and it's going to be straight at the front. So I'm just going to cut out just like I'm doing here. Then the next step now is to cut out our back piece. So for the back piece, ensure that you have an extra about 2 inches at the top part and 2.5 inches for the crotch area as well. So if you are working with a plus size, you can go ahead and ensure you have about 2.5 to 3 inches at the crotch part. But for me, I'm going to be having about 2 inches at the crotch part. So I used this method and the pants really came out well and it was really fitting at the crotch area. Then I also have about 2 inches at the top part, which I'm going to be using to ensure that our bum have free way to move. Remember, this is a high waist pant, so I went up by about 2 inches and I slanted it to the other side just like I'm doing here. Then I went out by my 2 inches. So from that 2 inches, I'm just going to be slanting it all the way down to the hemline of this pants. And that's all for the front piece. For the back piece, so I'm just going to go down by about 0.5 inches for the front piece and I'm just going to cut that out. Why I'm doing that is to enable the band to sit properly. So the next step is to just go ahead and cut it out. So I'm just going to cut out that 0.5 inches at the front part. This is just to enable our band lap perfectly well when we are stitching it on the front piece. So basically that's all for the cutting. So the next step now is to go ahead and map out where I want my design to begin with. So for me, I mark out about 24 inches. Then I went out with 2.5 inches for the wideness of the design I want to make. So you can do 3 inches if you want it very open, but I did 2.5 inches and I really loved the outcome. So remember that at this point the front piece and the back piece are still together. So I'm just going to be cutting out just like I did, like I'm doing here on the video. Remember, from the beginning of this pant, I went down by 24 inches. That's where the design, the cross design is going to begin from. Then the wideness is about 2.5 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out just like I'm doing here. So I'm just going to pin my piece together in a way that I will understand, so I don't end up mixing it up now that we have them in pieces. So I'm just going to pin them together, then I'm going to put them aside, and next step now is to begin stitching our pants together. So for the design, I'm just going to be folding like about 2 inches, just like so. I'll just go ahead and fold as many as I can so that it's going to be 1 inch wide. So this is what I have by the time I've gone ahead to stitch my fabric about 1 inch wide. So now I'm just going to be cutting out the length I need. So I'm just going to be cutting out about 4 inches. Why I'm cutting out 4 inches is so that by the time I use half an inch and half an inch to stitch on the two parts of our pants, I'll have about 3 inches or thereabouts. So I'm just trying to be as careful as I can because I actually don't want to have shortage when I'm stitching this on my pants. So you should just go ahead and cut out in as many as possible. So I'm going to be having about 6 sticks on each side of my pants. So I just went ahead to do as many as my leftover fabric could do. So yes, now we're going to go ahead and begin stitching. So turn over the front piece like so. So I'm just going to go ahead and place it like you see me do here. Remember, this is going to be like a slanted kind of design, so I'm just going to be placing it like a cross kind of form, and I'm going to be placing it very close to the beginning of the cut. Then I'm just going to pin it down. I'm just going to also go out by about 1 inches before placing the next design. So you can do about ½ inches, it depends on what you want, but I did 1 inches apart and it really came out very beautiful, just like you saw at the beginning of this video. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin down just like I'm doing, and I'll do this for the upper parts first. Then after pinning it down just like so, I'll just go to my machine and stitch on it. So ensure that it's very close to the beginning of the pants. I'll show you what I mean so you can see how it's looking. This is how yours should look. Just go ahead and stitch it all the way with about ½ inch like so. Then by the time you stitch it, you turn it over to the other side. So this is what it looks like by the time I was done stitching. I'm just going to go ahead and trim off any excess that I might have, which I did have and I just trimmed off. So I'm just going to go ahead and open it just like you see me doing this video, and ensure that the X design is really coming out well. So the next step now is to go ahead and top stitch on the parts I just finished stitching like so. So go ahead and top stitch on it just like I demonstrated with my hands. So this is what it looks like by the time I was done top stitching. The top stitch helped it to really lap well. So now is to place the down parts on it just like I'm doing. So just place it neatly and go ahead and run a stitch like so. So after running a stitch on it, I'll go ahead and also top stitch on it, but before that I'll cut out any excess I might have and give it a good press. So this is what it looked like by the time I was done giving it a good press. You can see how beautiful it came out. So we're going to just keep doing this for all the 4 pieces of our pants before we join them together. So this is how beautiful it's looking like. Yours should look even better. So now I'm going to go ahead and do this exact same thing that we did on the first part, on the second part of the front piece. So just go ahead and ensure that you're taking your time to do this so you don't end up mixing it up. I'm going to just go ahead and place my design like I did in the first part. So I'm just showing you this in case you missed it at the first part. You can just pay attention and get it at this part. So ensure the side you stitch together is lying flat on lying open, so that by the time you turn it to the other side, it will now be inside. So just go ahead and place your design just like I'm doing here. So like I said, you can decide to have about more than 6 design, more than 3 parts design. You can do 4 if you decide to just give it ½ inch apart, but I did 1 inch apart before I placed the next one on it. So I'm just going to do this, pin it down, and I'll go ahead and stitch on it all the way. So after stitching, I'll go ahead, take off my excess, top stitch on it, then I'll place the other side on it, and I'll go ahead and stitch it and also top stitch on it again. So voila, this is what it looks like by the time I was done. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew the crouch area for the front piece. So initially when I was drafting this pants, I didn't want to impute a pocket, but later on I changed my mind and I'm going to be imputing a pocket to this. So before I impute our pocket, I'm just going to go ahead and join the crouch area. You can see how lapping the design area is. So I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did for the 2 front piece of the front. I'll do the exact same thing for the back as well. I'll impute all my design, then I'll go ahead and just basically do everything that I did for the 2 front piece at the back. So at this point, if you're yet to hit the subscription button, please do so. and also turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I post tutorials. So I was done inputting my design for the back piece off camera. So the next step is to go ahead and close up my crouch area with about 1/2 inch. So now before we join our two pieces together, we're going to go ahead and work on our pockets, which is very easy, trust me. So at the top points of the pants, I went ahead to mark out about 0.5 inches. Then my pocket is going to be about 7 inches long, which I later increased to about 8.5 inches. So I'll just give it a notch at that point, and I'll go ahead and cut out my pockets, which is going to be about 8 by 8 inches wide. So this is my pocket. This is what it looks like. My pocket is on fold. So this is the length of my pocket. Depends on how deep you want your pockets to be. So the first step now in inputting our pockets to our pants is to open it up like I'm doing here. So after opening it up, so that place I notch at the top part, I'll place one pocket on it like so, right side facing right side, just like I'm doing here. I'm just ensuring that what I have is exactly the measurement I want, and I'll stitch it all the way down. So after stitching it all the way down, just like I did, I'll just fold it inside and ensure that it laps like this, leaving about 0.7 inches, 1 inches at the top part. Then at that point I will go ahead and top stitch on it, so you can see what it looks like. I top stitch at that point, and at the upper part I have about 0.7 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and close up my pockets on the inside like so, at the down part and also at the up part. I'll also do the same for the back as well. I'll go ahead and place it like I did for the other side. I'll top stitch the down part to hold my pockets together. Then I'll go ahead and close up the down part and also the up part as well. You can see how it's looking. So I top stitch there and I left about 0.7 inches at the upper parts, so that when I'm stitching the back, I'll use that inches to stitch the back piece on it. So next step now is to close up our pants. So I'm going to place the back on it, and I will stitch the sides and also stitch the down parts like so all the way down. So this is what it looks like. You can see that our design is really aligning. Yours should align as well, please. So just go ahead and give it a very good press. Then the next step now is to go ahead and work on our band for our pants. You can see that our design is lapping really well. So I've gone ahead to cut out my band, and I also included interfacing on it. Ensure that what you have there is exactly what you have on your pants. So measure your pants before cutting out your band, and go ahead and give it a very good press. So the next step now is to place my band, cut out any excess I might have, cut out all the threads to have a neat outcome. Then I'm going to place my band on. I'm going to begin with the front part. So I'm just going to place it the right side facing the wrong side first. Then I'll go ahead and stitch it first before I close it up like so and stitch it on our pants. If you've been watching all my pants video, you should already know this method. So after stitching the first part, that's the right side on the wrong side, so I'm just going to turn my band over to face the front of, that is the right side of my pants like so, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch it all the way around. Then before I do that, I'll bring in my elastic and I'm going to top stitch it on one side, that's the side I'm pinning, and I'll go ahead and top stitch it on the other side of the back. Remember I told you that the back of this pants is going to have an elastic, so when I'm sewing my pants or my band on it, I will just draw it to fit in all the way round the waist. So this is what it looks like. You can see how beautiful it is. There's the back. You can see it has an elastic, and the next step now is to go ahead and fold the hem part of this pants. So just go ahead and, like I said, measure it, cut out any excess you might have. If you have excesses, then first of all I'll go ahead and fold it in with my pressing iron before I stitch it all the way around. And that's basically all for this tutorial. I hope you learned something. See you in my next video. Bye.